The year 99 was great for the both of us because we are both 8 years old, oblivious to the world, but there was a bunch of crazy shit happening at the same time. Random fears of Y2K, the NATO bombing campaign in Kosovo, the Columbine High School shooting, and of course, there was a little known thing called Napster that was just about to come into the fore and change the way how we consume media forever. But besides all of that, was also a phenomenal year for the movies. On this week's episode, we jump back into the year 99, discussing some of our favorite films, the biggest blockbusters of the year, as well as some indie darlings that have now gone on to become cult classics. This is the Two Please podcast, where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture. I'm Abin.
And I'm Rohit. And let's start the show.
Yeah, so I think let's break this episode down into little bits. So the first thing we'll do is we'll discuss, the big box office blockbusters that happened. Then we'll follow that up with, the critical darlings, the ones that won the awards across the circuit. Then we'll do some of the cult classics, some of the films that bombed on arrival but have since become legendary or have achieved iconic status. And lastly, we'll kind of wrap up with, the Bollywood and global cinema, like some of the films that stood out. Because I have one that really comes to mind. It involves a woman and a sack. I'll let you figure out what that movie is. But yeah, this is roughly what the episode structure is going to be. We'll also spend a little bit of time discussing some of the directors' careers if we've got if we have enough bandwidth left at the end of this episode. But yeah, let's jump into it. So this was a huge year for the commercial blockbusters, and just looking at the list of films that came out this year, starting off was Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, followed up with The Sixth Sense, Toy Story 2, The Matrix, Tarzan, The Mummy, Notting Hill, The World Is Not Enough, American Beauty, surprising, this really surprised me, and Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Now, in this list, we've discussed, I think, The Matrix. We have an episode on The Matrix. We have an episode on The Mummy. We've discussed Notting Hill at length over several episodes. So it's no surprise that they feature on some of the biggest films to come out of this year. But what really surprises me is American Beauty. I didn't never thought it would be one of the top grossing films because I always associated it to be a Hollywood like a critical darling, given it won the Oscar this year.
I feel we had still not gotten into proto sequelitis, right? While we do
Oh,
have the Star Wars movies to talk about, for the most part, these are all either independent IPs or, like in the case of Matrix, the first of what would then go on to become a series, right? So, for all intents and purposes, largely original works. For that being a factor, the fact that these movies made the money they did showed that people still had an appetite for lack of a better term, risk taking when going to the cinemas. I feel this is probably the last 10, 15, or maybe the last decade, not even 15 years, the last decade of theatrical risk taking, so to speak. Towards the end of the next decade, where it's just started becoming, hey, I know what to expect, and I'm just going to go watch that.
I mean, we also need to mention that the dot-com bubble was just about to burst. I think in a year or so. Like, it's not the most tech-friendly environment, if that's something I'd
Just
like to say.
another bubble around the corner
Yeah, like
right
just
now.
so very apt time to discuss this. So it was a time where people were like, okay, let's make things based on, obviously there were surveys, but also directors were given a lot more leeway when it came to creative direction, something that studios today are are clearly not doing, given the number of remakes and sequels to existing properties that we've been seeing. So it's kind of surprising to me that an original IP like American Beauty, which went on to win Best Picture at the Oscars, was also one of the highest grossing films of that year. That stuff doesn't really happen. If you look at the Oscars, most times the Best Picture winners are have really paltry runs at the box office. So this definitely seemed like a time where studios were on a risk-taking adventure, and the audiences were as well.
But yeah, with that stage being set, let's quickly talk about a few of the blockbusters. Again, this is going to be a mix of regurgitated IPs, a few originals, and we won't spend too much time on the movies we've already discussed. But yeah, I mean, to begin with, let's talk about the Star Wars prequels. Again, unlike you, Abhin, I've never really engaged with Star Wars. I have not watched The Phantom Menace, and from all accounts that I've read
Really?
later, it feels like, yeah, it feels like
Mhm.
it was time well saved. I've not seen either of the three.
Interesting. No, actually, to
I
be
think I've
fair,
collectively watched one Star Wars movie.
so I have a
I
very
just
funny
uh,
story about.
I just know Star Wars movies through the memes.
To be fair, yeah. I
Prequels,
mean, and
the
I think,
prequels, yeah.
yeah, I think Phantom Menace somehow has become the most, like, from a topical perspective, has had a resurgence over the last couple of years. Because this when this movie came out, the general feedback was like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars because these guys are sitting here talking about trade routes and taxation federations. Like, how is this going to be relevant? And then bam, come 2025, the American president is like, no tariffs, guys. We need to impose tariffs on our
Yeah,
trading partners. And so everyone's like, oh, the George Lucas was a visionary way ahead of his time. Now, this film, when I watched it as an 8-year-old. I didn't really have a problem with it. When I watched it much like years later as like a 20-year-old, I was like, yeah, I can see why people were pissed off with this film. It's still, there's a lot of it I love, right? Like as a child, I loved the whole Naboo fighter sequence. Pod racing was something I loved then, I still love now. I think one of the most important things I love about this film, even back then as an 8-year-old, it was one of the first few soundtracks that I noticed. Like, I'm not talking about like original scores or like songs associated with films. I think Celine Dion the year prior had kind of whacked us over the head repeatedly with her a song for the Titanic. But Duel of the Fates was something I'd heard back then. And I was like, I like that, but I didn't know where to find it. So many years later, when I was hanging out with a friend and he was playing, oh, this is Duel of the Fates. Have you heard it? I was like, oh, dude, I love this because I love the Darth Maul character. It's so iconic when he's like puts out where he has that scene where the doors slide open and he like uses the double-sided lightsaber and he lights it up for the first time. The epic battle between him, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is a lot of fun. There are pockets of this film I really adore. Not Jar Jar Binks. I didn't like him then. I don't like him now. It's one of those films because it's like one of the first times you sat and you went to watch Star Wars in a theater. This is the first Star Wars film I saw in a theater. Everything else was on VHS. So there's a slight bit of there's a bit of fondness for it, which I guess other folks don't have. I don't know. I think the Phantom Menace gets a bad rep given what Attack of the Clones was like. But moving on, let's quickly jump into this. I think was is one of my favorite films. I think the Sixth Sense is up there for a lot of people. I think it is the quintessential
yeah.
M Night Shyamalan film.
Which we, I think, also discussed in the twist endings episode,
Yeah,
right?
it's in the
If I
plot twist
remember.
endings. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
yeah,
It's popped up in some of our episodes. And how could we not have discussed it in the plot twist? It is the ultimate twist of all time,
yeah,
right? But like, it is like what Psycho was to a generation of people, The Sixth Sense is to us. Again, this has to do with like internet, right? Like with a global phenomenon like this, the secret ending would, or the twist ending would not have leaked out because the internet was very much in its infancy. If The Sixth Sense came out today, I think by the time somebody else walks out of the theater, you'd probably like see tweets about, oh, that ending, what the hell was that? Oh, that's crazy. We would have known
yeah.
exactly what Bruce Willis was at the end of the film. Unless you lived in China. The Chinese title for this film is He's a Ghost. The Chinese are already going through a hard time. We don't have time to sit in a movie and be worried. So he's a ghost. Who's a ghost? That's the suspense.
Even the knowledge that there is a twist ending sort of ruins the movie watching experience, because then you're sitting the whole time just waiting, sort of trying to spot the twist ending, right? It becomes a game instead of an immersive experience, which is not what it's supposed to be.
I think it's safe to say that this is like the best intro into the horror genre if you're ever looking for one. Because it's scary, yes, it's quite scary, but it's also smooth enough jump off point to get into the horror genre, which you can then start to explore because there's not a ton of gore. It's mostly the underlying fear of like of who these people are, which gets to people. But moving on from The Sixth Sense, I think this is probably the next film on this list is probably my favorite, which is Toy Story 2. I loved it then. I watch it now. I still love it. Beautiful soundtrack. Randy Newman's You've Got a Friend in Me. Sarah McLachlan's When Somebody Loved Me. Absolute tearjerker. I don't know how this franchise is still going. I think if they'd ended here, I would have been happy. It's still my favorite out of the Toy Story films. I watched this movie in theaters. I didn't see one in theaters. I had the chance to watch two in theaters. I adore it.
I've not seen any of the Toy Story films.
Why? Oh my god. I mean, I haven't seen Heat, so I'm not I can't really complain.
Yeah, no, but I have had what, four chances to get into the four movies, no? Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had
there are
four
four
chances
movies.
to get into
Yeah.
it. I've just been like,
It's literally on fucking like
nah, it's
Hotstar,
cool.
dude. Just like, god. Yeah, dude. Okay, you have to watch Toy Story. Come on now.
Maybe in some time. Yeah. I'll get around
Okay.
to it. Again, I have little to add. I mean, see, I can talk about funda around the films. For those of you who don't know, a very nice story around the Toy Story films is location around the world. And say you come across a few, whatever, bunch of Toy Story characters at one place. If you shout the phrase "Andy's coming," basic premise for those of you who don't know, toys are sentient in this universe, but the humans that own them don't know, right? So whenever the humans are back in the room with them, the toys have to act lifeless again. So
Yeah.
in Disneyland, if anyone shouts the phrase "Andy's coming," all of the characters are sort of obligated to drop down and play lifeless, act lifeless. Sorry, I mean that's a nice little story about the property that I know. But I guess that is the summation of my contribution because I have not seen Toy Story. I was smiling when you were talking because I was like, again, I'm going to tell Abid I've not seen this. He's like, why the
I
fuck
was
am
like,
I
why is he
making a
smiling?
podcast with this guy?
It's okay. I mean, and there are a bunch of films I haven't seen as well, so it's fine. Notable standouts from this list: Tarzan. I quite enjoyed when I watched it in theaters. I owned like a bunch of the toys. The Mummy. We
Yeah,
love the Mummy on this show. Spoken
we love
about
the
it
mummy.
at length. And Notting Hill. I adore Roth. It's like whatever. It's one of my go-to rom-coms of all time.
It's
Austin
nice. It's a little too far removed from reality, but yeah. Anyway, I won't belabor the point.
Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me, has one of my favorite jokes in there about that whole tent with him pulling stuff out of their ass.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's silly fair, but it's quite entertaining. But yeah, there was it felt like this was a healthy mix of of like story driven narratives or character driven narratives and big blockbuster
I
films.
mean, I just have a word to say about Tarzan. Couple of things. One, the ending of the film where the antagonist dies
Oh,
and
oh, I just remembered. Yeah, is the tree thing, right?
basically hangs himself accidentally. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I am 8 years old. What's happening? And there's a computer game, a Tarzan computer game that also came out. I think around that time. I played that game so much, and usually these IP derived PC games aren't really that good, right? They're
Yeah,
more
yeah,
of a cash grab. But this game was really good. Like the story was engaging, the gameplay was it was 2D. It wasn't 3D, of course,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
but but you could slide across the branches. You could swing across vines. It was damn good. I remember playing that game a lot.
But yeah, coming back, or rather moving on to the next list of films, but like we'll jump into some of the critical darlings that came out this year. So at the Oscars this year, American Beauty wins Best Picture, Kevin Spacey wins Best Actor, Hilary Swank wins Best Actress for Boys Don't Cry. The Green Mile, I've seen this film. I remember watching it with my dad, and my dad was like, "This is not the Shawshank Redemption." I didn't like it as much, but it has like a kick-ass performance from Michael Clark Duncan.
I think the fairest statement to make is whenever Frank Darabont adapts Stephen King, you at least get a 7 on 10. There are a couple more that aren't coming to my mind right away, but whenever he does take a stab at Stephen King, including The Green Mile, which I sort of have a soft spot for because it used to be on TV a lot, or at least I came across it on TV a lot. So I've watched it quite a few times. I know it's a little fantastical and this gentle black guy coming in, and it is a little problematic in terms of the racial, I don't know if stereotypes is the right word, but those
Uh-huh.
caricatures that it sort of puts forth. It's not without its faults, but it's a nice feel good watch. Again, I let me qualify feel good. The movie is quite dark.
Yeah.
The setting is quite dark. There are a couple of characters who are very hateful, but yeah, the way the movie resolves, and because it has Tom Hanks, right? Tom Hanks brings a baseline feel goodness to whatever movie he's in. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know. I just have a soft spot for this film. I think that's how I'd sort of put it. It hasn't aged very well in the sense people don't talk about it as much as they probably should. Uh,
Hmm.
but if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a like. I would definitely say, find it out and give it a watch. You won't regret it.
But what puts people off is the runtime. I think it's almost 3 hours.
Like Darabont cannot edit. That's
Yeah, but
he takes his time. He's very indulgent as a filmmaker. I think similar vein, the other movie which I think we've also sort of alluded to, we did a Paul Thomas Anderson. We've done a couple of PTA movies where you have mentioned Magnolia. We haven't really dove into it, but again, I from what I know you've watched it. I've watched scenes of the film. It's very ambitious take, right? Like you have non-linear storylines converging in like a bizarre resolution at the end. It's a hard watch in an altogether different way.
I think this is my favorite PTA movie. I think at some point we'll discuss this as, in an episode we'll deep dive because there's plenty to unpack. I watched it very recently. It's one of those movies that just somehow kept escaping me. And I wanted to bring this up because this was the year Michael Caine won Best Supporting Actor for The Cider House Rules, which again is a good film. But having watched Magnolia and having seen Tom Cruise's performance in this, there was many an argument before this that I'd read about how he was robbed, or rather, he lost Daniel Day Lewis when he won for My Left Foot and Tom Cruise had done Born on the 4th of July, which I personally didn't like as much, but he was really giving it his all. This film, Tom Cruise in this movie is a fucking revelation. Now, I love Magnolia because this is essentially a college filmmaker's dream, right? You build a interconnected story of different characters going through different things in their lives, and one fine day it kind of all connects together and they're all a part of each other, this one incident. And Magnolia is, it is essentially what happens when a filmmaker is given free will because of his last two films and he kind of gets all his creative juices out there. That bizarre climax that you referred to, I'd completely forgotten about it, and I will not bring it up on this episode. We'll do it for the Magnolia episode at some point. It makes no sense, but it works. It just works because there is a line that says, yeah, this happens. And it's filled with a bunch of emotionally broken characters who are fighting their own demons, and it's fleshed out storylines. Now, coming back to Tom Cruise, I think Tom Cruise steals the movie right at the end. He has a conversation with his dying father, which, if you've read the BTS, is when PT had approached him for with the script. Tom Cruise rewrote the entire section of what he says to his dad. It's like, this isn't visceral enough. You don't know, and this comes from the fact that Tom Cruise himself had a very horrible relationship with his dad. You really see it come out, and I was like, holy shit. The movie has a musical in the middle. It has a phenomenal soundtrack. It is by far the best needle drop, personally for me, in a film that I've seen in a while, and the best ending. Like, if you were to end a film that makes you get this big goofy smile on your face, this is it. Again, the running time of the film is quite daunting, but if you have the time to sit down and watch a film, especially when you're feeling like not so great and you just want a comfort film, you really connect with these characters because they're all just going through shitty times and they just make it through. The idea is you make it through, you will make it through whatever you're going through. I love it. It's not perfect. There are like at least 10-15 minutes of it that could, completely um, be shaved off. I love this film. I think this is probably I'd say it's my favorite film this year from like the entire list of movies that we were discussing.
Interesting. A bold claim.
Yeah.
Another movie that we didn't talk about in the blockbuster bit, which I think we should, because very few movies have the distinction of altogether starting an entire genre in and of itself, which is the Blair Witch Project. Kickstarted the found footage genre of horror films. Super small budget, I think less than 100K, ended up making more than 240 million or something. Considered to be, I think, still the highest ROI on a movie. Probably Paranormal Activity is slightly higher. Again, Paranormal Activity is found footage in slightly different ways, like security cam footage or whatever. But was more, as much as the movie, the marketing campaign around the movie was equally innovative, right? The
Fucking
actors never
gold
appeared
campaign
in
this was.
public. Yeah, so it actually, they peddled the narrative that these people, this is not a produced movie. It was legit found footage, and these people are actually dead. To keep up that charade for however long the movie's marketing campaign ran for is insane, and it paid handsome dividends. Also, but of course, at the end of the day, the movie has to be good, which it is, right? uh, Still has a very eerie feeling. The interviews they do up front, and then the horror ramps up. The ending is infamous, right? I don't want to talk about it because the ending is pretty intense, and even thinking about that, I don't want to remember the ending. It's pretty scary.
I think we're now in the cult classics territory and the sleeper hits and, part of the episode. So I think it's right for us to talk about the Blair Witch. So this is also a film I wouldn't even say it didn't underperform. It's probably it's the most, I'd say, from a budgetary perspective, the most successful film of all time
Yeah,
because it was produced for about $250,000. I'll put the actual number on the screen if you're those of you watching. It went on to gross 25 million or like 250 million
250
at the box
million.
office. Yeah, so I think it was, yeah, it broke box office records. And we've spoken about this on, I think, Monsters Under Our Bed, the first ever Monsters Under Our Bed episode. We spoke about the Blair Witch Project, which you can find on Spotify, which I watched in my father's office on a Saturday afternoon in 2007. By the time the movie ended, I was afraid to walk from his cabin to the door because I was that terrified. And 2007, I'm like 16 years old. It scared the living shit out of me. I'd assumed that I hadn't seen the ghost and I was just freaking out because I was so scared. I was watching it like this, right? So I thought throughout the course of the film, I hadn't seen where the witch was. That house that they
Yeah.
go to scared the pants off of me.
Anytime anyone's like for punishment sent to the corner of the room, it's just like no.
Creeps the fuck out of me. But yeah, moving on from that, this is, I
Other
mean,
cult
we speak
classics that we want
other
to
cult
get
classics.
into.
Yeah, we have to tackle. Let's do Office Space because I know how much you love Office Space.
I've done allusions, and you never let me get into the movie at length, because we always keep saying we'll get into it sometime, we'll get into it sometime. I don't know if we'll ever do a standalone Office Space movie, so I'm going to use this opportunity to describe the movie. Is very simple, but to enthuse somebody to watch it is difficult, right? It's about a bunch
Hmm.
of guys who work at the most run of the mill like software company. Think of a 1999 software company where your data entry, Excel sheets, and it's called Initech, which is and all of this is by design, right? It's a
Hmm.
movie by Mike Judge, who later went on to make Silicon Valley. So, like Silicon Valley, it is a parody of the tech industry at that point in time. It shows how mindless and mundane life in the tech industry was, is, probably will continue to be. And it's about three employees who are frustrated and they decide to do something about it. I won't get into the details of the plot. There's shenanigans that ensue, and there's a whole nice little resolution. It has very memorable side characters as well, especially Stephen Root as Milton. But what really gave the movie enduring power and what people love it for are specific scenes, right? Especially these manifestations of frustration towards the mundane work life that
Equipment.
they have. So just people getting pissed off at like office equipment, and there's a printer that never works.
Yeah.
So the character called Michael Bolton, who's always like PC load letter. What the fuck does PC load letter mean, right? And all this pent up frustration. So when they quit the office, there's this epic scene where at the time of quitting, they steal the office printer, and there's a scene where they take it out to a clearing, and there's rap music playing in the background. And in slow mo, these three are taking baseball bats and just going to town on that printer, right? They're kicking it, they're bashing it. And this the my favorite part in that scene is after all the thing like bashing is done, Michael wants to go in again to like
He's
hit
being
it
held
some
back.
more, and he's being held back. I'm just like the sheer, oh god, I mean, explanations can't do it justice. You really have
You
to
have to
watch
watch
it.
this. Yeah.
But beyond just the comedy of it, right? Older you get as you watch Office Space, or more, to put it in another way, if you watch it before you start working and a few years into your professional life, the movie, your experience of the movie is completely different, right? uh, Before you, I watched it in college. I was just like, hey, this sounds like a very boring life, and no wonder they want to like do crime, because I will never work, and like my workplace is going to be exciting, and we're going to like change the world. A few years into the professional life, you're like, bro, this is a documentary.
It is. It really is. Okay,
So yeah,
let's
I'm
move
glad
away
I could
from.
finally talk about Office
Mm,
Space at some length.
mm.
The other movie, again, we won't spend too much time on this because I think we've basically done an entire episode on this, if my memory serves me correctly, which is 1999's Fight Club.
What do you mean? Of course we
We did
have.
do it. Yeah,
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 yeah.
I'm getting old.
Mm, mm.
Go check that episode out if you want a deeper dive into Fight Club. We've discussed themes, we've discussed context around the film, the enduring legacy, and I think our conclusion of the episode was, sure, it's a good movie. It does not age well, especially given the current climate and manosphere. It's a bit problematic, and maybe not as good as it's made out to be.
So there are two things that happened in 99, right? Like Magnolia makes fun of the alpha male character that Tom Cruise portrays exactly like an Andrew Tate type back in '99. And this film also satirizes, that the incel type of characters that we've developed over the last couple of years. It just annoyed me so much that even though Fight Club exists as a satire, people took the wrong lessons from it, and which has kind of hampered the film's legacy to a certain degree. I feel like when people pitch Tyler Durden as this cool guy character who's anarchist and who doesn't play by the norms, they're missing the point of the film, which is what annoys me with Fight Club. I don't like the legacy it has left behind.
Which is again the gist of what we ended on that episode on.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Another film I really enjoyed watching again years later was The Talented Mr. Ripley. Now, I think I don't know if you've seen it, but
yeah, yeah.
Matt Damon was coming off the back of Good Will Hunting, and he basically decided to go for the movie star route. Right? He picked indies. He did like small films. He was doing big budget films. I think the year prior he had Rounders with Ed Norton, which is like a poker movie, which is fun. It's like a
Yeah.
classical popcorn kind of film. This I again has been remade as a Netflix TV show and doesn't capture any of what made the original so great.
For me, actually, the star of the show was Philip Seymour Hoffman, which he tends to be, right? Whichever movie he's
Yeah,
in, give him more than 5 minutes, he's going to be the standout, right?
yeah.
I like the fact that his character is the only one who never really buys Matt Damon's shtick.
Hmm.
He never really fully trusts him. Uh, Always quick to blame him whenever something is shady. I like that whole dynamic, and it keeps the movie tense, keeps you on edge, right? And even the way he's a bit sleazy in the movie, and not sleazy,
Slimy is
he
what I would do.
slimy, and there's a bit of open disdain. Like imagine if Matt Damon's character weren't lying, right? Philip Seymour Hoffman's
Hmm.
character was being an outright dick to him.
Yeah.
So, and I like that dynamic because you need somebody to call the your protagonist out, especially when your protagonist is a cheating ass, right? So, um, that's what I recall the most from the film. Yeah, but yeah, it's a really nice movie. I completely agree with you there. Anything else that you want to any English cinema that you want to talk about? I just want to talk about one non-English movie, and then we can quickly get into spend 5 minutes on Bollywood. If you have any other English movie, we can quickly do that first. Though.
I'll run through this. There are a bunch that I just want to like quickly address. Cruel Intentions came out this year. Big hit to a certain degree. I don't think we can't not talk about American Pie for a hot minute, because this film was like the X-rated film for all millennials who grew up in the 90s. American Pie released this year, was a huge hit, starred Jason Biggs, Alison Hannigan, Sean William Scott, essentially birthed the Stifler character that was like this icon for a few years for all millennial dudes. Did random things to a pie, which you can't really shake. I like American Pie 2 more than I like this for some reason. Maybe I saw that first. But this is one of those cable show movies that you happen to stumble on. You're like, what exactly is happening? So you have to consider its legacy. I think it has since spawned a bunch of really stupid sequels, but I think one and two still.
Think of it this way, right? You would never watch Pie in a state of post-nut clarity because
Yeah,
that is exactly the sort of film where you're plugged up and you're like fucking hormones are making you feel crazy, irrational, and that movie plays to that sentiment.
it's a time capsule film. I think now we look back on it more on fondness than any sort of horniness, for a lack of a better word.
Probably,
But
yeah.
another film I want to quickly address is Election, Alexander Payne's Election, which I watched for the first time this year, and it's on Netflix. It just dropped on Netflix. Really lovely film. It's about a girl, really. Reese Witherspoon plays this really driven girl who wants to become high school president, and Matthew Broderick is her teacher. And it's this weird, twisted tale that's told in a way that only Alexander Payne can do it. Really nice film. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out.
Hello, a quick message from the editing table. You've probably noticed that there isn't a section on Eyes Wide Shut just yet. Well, because I've kind of removed it from this episode. We wanted to do it as a follow up to this episode, but then have decided to go in a different direction. So it should show up on our future episodes somewhere down the line, preferably within a couple of them. So just stay tuned for that. I have not forgotten about Eyes Wide Shut.
That's pretty much it from me. You had one film, one non-English film you wanted to like discuss.
Audition, the Japanese movie Audition.
Of course, I
For
mentioned it
those
at the
of
start. Yeah,
for those of you who have not watched it, I will not spoil it. I wouldn't call it the scariest film, but no movie has made me as uncomfortable.
very unnerving,
So coming back to the woman in the
supremely
sack
unnerving. Hmm.
that you were talking about, without getting into too much spoilery territory, when the first time that sack moves, you're just like, what just end this now. Like, take the movie out of the VHS, burn it.
This movie, we only watched this movie because curiosity gets the better of you, right?
Yeah,
Everyone,
yeah.
like 2011, I remember this because when we were going after films with shock value, because I think you went from the Saw pipeline to like everything else that followed. When we went, I won't say Old Boy. I think Old Boy is we doing a disservice by classifying it into this category. But the shock at the end is with what you get. Similarly, with you start to explore more like Asian cinema. Like you find the works of Park Chan Wook, you find the works of Takashi Miike, which is Audition. The moment you see this woman come into the audition room to what happens soon after and right to the end of the film, you're just like, holy shit. This movie
Yeah,
scared the whole bejesus out of me.
yeah, it's just very discomforting, the reveal. You're just like, who thought this up? What is wrong with you?
Jail right now.
But quickly jumping for 5 minutes into Bollywood.
Mm.
Not the best year for Bollywood, but still, I think a handful of movies to talk about. In terms of quality, I would say there's Sarfarosh. Pretty good movie objectively. For its time, really good. Takes a slightly black and white view at India Pakistan relations. But nice performances, great music, fairly memorable. I don't know if it has aged well in the sense of it being in people's memory, but I remember growing up watching it quite a lot. So uh, it's there, at least for me, it does stand out. Tal is one more film. Movie is not good. Subhash Ghai
Soundtrack is
amps up the
phenomenal.
soundtrack is in the list, in the running for like top 10 Bollywood soundtracks of all time. We have done one episode on favorite Bollywood soundtracks a while back. We've been meaning to get around to do a volume 2, which is where I will be talking about Tal in a little bit more detail. If I remember correctly, I didn't put it in my initial list
No, no.
for the
Mm.
first episode, but again, phenomenal soundtrack. So if nothing else, for the soundtrack, for the songs, you should definitely watch the movie. Two other films that I want to touch upon. One is, of course, Hum Saath Saath Hain, directed by Suraj Barjatia. It's a crap film peddling crap values which are totally outdated in today's day and age. It was outdated when he made the film, but just watching this whole, I mean, if you think Hum Aapke Hain Kaun was bad, this is Hum Aapke Hain Kaun on steroids, right?
I remember my mom and
Uh,
dad coming back from this film. I was, how's the movie? It
mhm.
must have been I was 8 years old. So my dad runs to the edge of the house, and my mom stays by the door, and they run to each other in slow motion. Like,
Oh God.
and then they turned to me and said, "The worst film I have seen in such a long time." And so my assumption for a very long time was this movie tanked, and it basically killed Suraj Bharatia's career, and like he didn't do anything after. But turns out it's the highest grossing film this year in India. And it
Because
has
this
since
is why
become a
it will never
punching
be a
bag
first
because
world
yeah,
country.
it has become
And
a
the song,
punching
of
bag for
course,
mm,
uh,
of course.
laziest lyrical work in history. There is legit a song in this movie that just goes A B C D E F G H I J K L M. They run through the entire alphabet. I'm
I
just like,
love you.
how is this a song? Who are these? Are they like illiterate? Have they not like studied in school? Why are they like reciting the alphabet at 35 years old or whatever? It's a bizarre film. It is not even a product of its time. It was an outlier in 1999.
90
It is
exactly, yeah.
just it is a bizarre anachronism. which everybody should watch. The other film I want to talk
Great
about
year
is
for Salman Khan, though, no?
yeah, lot of Salman Khan films. I would say yes, Samsat they made money, but for Salman Khan, more of a quantity over quality here. Unless I'm missing some highly critically acclaimed film, it was more used in a bunch
He
of
had
films.
Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam the same year.
Oh damn, yeah, Hum Dil De Chuke Sam. I totally slept on that. Probably, all things considered, the best film of the year. Between that and
Mm,
Sarfarosh, I would put it.
I'd say Sarfarosh should probably top it. This is
Edge
there.
it a little bit out, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like again, insane soundtrack.
What a
Insane
soundtrack.
soundtrack.
I'd completely forgotten about the existence of Chand Chupa Badal Mein, and I was like listening to it today. I'm like, holy shit, this song is amazing. And it's not even one of the best songs on that album. And it's not even the best song on
Yeah,
the album. Like, there are so
yeah.
many.
It's insane. I totally forgot about Hamdulillah Chike Sanam. You're right. Salman Khan did have a good year. The other movie I want to talk about is Badshah. Again, it is not a very deep movie.
Hmm.
It does not hold up to scrutiny, critical scrutiny at all. It's a fun watch. It's full time pass. The ending is a total rip-off of Rush Hour. Like,
Yeah.
not even trying to hide it.
Abbas
Like,
Mustan is like, huh.
frame to frame.
Abbas Mustan must have been like, you do that, okay? You see that? You do that, okay?
Yeah. Crazy. But yeah, that was 1999.
What is the best movie that came out this year?
The Matrix.
Yeah, I think so too. I feel like we haven't spoken about the Matrix on this episode as much because what is there to say that we have not said on like I think 50 episodes at this point?
Yeah.
We keep bringing it up here and there, and we have a full episode on the Matrix as a standalone film. Like fuck the franchise, what a movie!
Yeah.
Like if you haven't seen
Fun
the
movie.
Matrix, like such a fun time. There are other films that are critically more renowned that I love, and there are some films that I also adore that aren't the best critically. Like I think for me, maybe recency bias puts Magnolia at the top, but from the last 20 years, if I think of the year 1999, I think of Matrix. If you've made it to the end of this episode, thank you. I'm going to like stop this stupid joke that he's planning, and so we can all just like go away. But thank you for reaching the end of this episode. We'll be back again in a week's time. We'll see you then. So thank you for dropping by. If you're listening to the pod on audio or on video, please do follow or subscribe to the channel. It really helps us. And yeah, don't forget to like the video or the episode as well. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, take care and see you.
Bye bye.